Hey guys, DFW's Cars here. I'm with the new 2018 Toyota Camry, and last time I drove this car, I wasn't really sure how I felt about it. I did a comparison to it in the Avalon. I said it was nice, it was okay. Let's see if this one changed my mind. So let's face it, guys, Toyota definitely needs my vote of confidence here. It was the best-selling car in America, the old Camry, and this one is arguably and noticeably better than that. So no matter what I say, this car will do well, but here are some of my thoughts on it. So just to get it out of the way in the beginning, there's a couple of things about this car that, little gripes that I'll mention on the interior part of the review, and then it can get up to about, I think, 38 grand, which I'll discuss a little bit more why that might not be a bad deal. But starting with the exterior styling, it might be controversial to some, but I do think you can't say it's boring, really. It definitely has an interesting look. I love this blue color. It's, really nice, and it kind of really helps the car stand out. I've actually gotten compliments on it, which is kind of rare in a car of this class for people to come up to you and, give you compliments. Loving these dual-colored wheels on there. It's very sporty looking. This is the bigger engine V6 model with the sport suspension. We'll talk about that a bit in the drive review. Good looking car though, overall. And then coming around to the back here, a little smoother in the back and less exotic looking. I do like the spoiler this one has, but it is a good looking car to be sure. So let's go check out the inside now.
So opening up the trunk, that's probably important to a lot of buyers of this car. It is tall, it is deep, it is wide. It is a really big trunk. You could fit a ton of people back there, things, or whatever really you wanted to put back there would fit quite easily, so that's nice. However, when you go to put the trunk down, it does have a little trouble like grasping, and I think this is just unique to my model. Let me know in the comments if you experience that as well.
Like I said, the interior is very nice, but these seats are extra nice. They have that little two-tone stitching in there, that's actually a piece of, like, it feels like Alcantara-like material. And then it's got this pattern down here. So, and they're very comfortable as well, as I discovered over the last year. Here is also a really nice place, and it looks way more high-end. I've said the one gripe I had with this car, it was the price. But compared to, say, a Lexus, this doesn't look that far off. One thing I don't love about it, to get it out of the way in the beginning, is these little buttons here. They're kind of hard to press, especially if you're not paying attention, because they're so thin. But I do love how there's knobs just for everything. Coming on down here, pretty standard. Another little gripe that someone else riding in the car caught was when these stay on even after you restart the car. So if it's hot later in the day, you'll have your heated seat on. Just a little thing. And then this nice, fairly large console here. Where you can charge a couple of phones and all that, and there is phone charging down here on any phone who has wireless charging on it. Like the gauges as well. This has all the self-autonomous driving technology. It works really well. Really been impressed with that. Gauges over here are really cool. Let me kind of play with them a little bit. This has you can option a lot of autonomous tech, and it's more or less self-driving. For you. It also has a head-up display up there, which you can see. It gives you the autonomous tech info, the speed limit, and your RPMs, which is kind of unexpected in this class. And then, yeah, so this mirrors your autonomous tech info, your audio system, tire pressure, of course, and all your safety tech down there. This is mostly around town driving spirited to get 23, so that's not too bad, actually. Good car. It's got an upgraded JBL stereo. It sounds really good. The infotainment system, the screen is really, really good. Like I mentioned earlier on the drive review, the stereo is also surprisingly good. The JBL system on here has really good defined bass and a decent surround type effect as well. So it's up there with any of the basic Harman Kardon systems that you might find in any of the competitors. I do also like this home screen where it splits everything, and like I said, this is just really, really fast, and it really does display beautifully all the info you'd need. So I definitely am a fan of this infotainment system. Honestly, I'd probably use my phone more, but it does work really well for what it is. And then it's just very clean. I do like this carbon look kind of deal in here. That's very nice. I actually wish there was kind of more of that as well. In back, compared to the last Camry I drove, this one feels absolutely huge. 2 6-feet people can fit no problem, so good job there. I really love this panoramic sunroof on this guy. It's an expensive option to be sure, but it's really cool, and it's, you know, just opens up the interior of the car. This one here is the V6 model. It has the Sport Tune suspension. It has a sport mode. Interestingly enough, there is a sport mode here, which is if you just for some reason want the transmission in sport mode. And then there's these drive modes here. Normal's pretty good. It still has an eco function where if you're driving well, it'll show if you're economically driving. And then the sport mode is just, you know, of course, fun. That also seems to shift the transmission as well as adjusting the steering and throttle response as well. So if you want the pure sport, that's the way to go. It's pretty quick. There's actually not a lot of torque steer, but you can spin the tires, which is kind of crazy to think about in a Camry. The steering is probably my favorite part about the car, especially in the sport mode. It's very tight, very controlled. It's probably one of the better steering systems in this class. The suspension, even with the sport tuning, it's good. It's better than the old one. It's probably better than the Nissan. Probably about the same as the Civic. Not as good as the Mazda 6. It just doesn't hold up as well. But it is pretty comfortable, even on large bumps like that one we just had. Not too much vibration, nothing, you know, crazy like that. So that's a good thing. The transmission's very smooth as well. It delivers the power well. The paddles are really slow to shift down, but I doubt you'll be paddle shifting this car that much. It's even nice that they are there. The brakes are also very good, very grippy, and right up there with the steering. Another favorite of this car for me. That engine, it's quick. It's, you know, 300 horsepower in a, you know, fairly light mid-sized car, so it's definitely not slow. You could probably get away with the smaller engine. You get better mileage. Not to say that this engine isn't fun, but in this, you know, class of car, I bet a lot of people will opt for that smaller engine. But if you do, you know, drive the regular one, think, then go for the bigger engine, because it definitely won't leave you, you know, being bored or anything like that. Like I said, areas for improvements on this car are rather small. The big critique of the last Camry was, oh, you know, it's kind of boring. And outside they fixed that with the styling. Inside they made it a much nicer place, as we saw in the interior review. And they made the car drive a lot better as well. If I was shopping for a car in this class, would this one be the one I would get? It probably would. You know, it's definitely so improved the last one, which was already a good car. And let's face it, Toyota, as I said earlier, doesn't really need my positive review one way or another. This car will do very, very well, no matter what. And this one really does deserve to. And honestly, when you talk about the, you know, the fact that it is $38,000, you know, totally maxed out with every option available. Compare that to a Lexus, which I honestly think this is just as nice as. The interior might be a little nicer on the Lexus, but you know, it's a similar car, and you're getting a car that's almost as nice with as much tech, really, for a lot better money. So if you look at it that way, that it's actually a good you know, bargain for that. And if you realize the starting price of cars now is like $35,000, the average, not starting price, but the average price of cars sold. So in that way, you know, this is a really good example of a car that'll hold its value well. It'll be reliable, and you know, it's only a few thousand more than kind of the average. You know, what you guys think, if that is kind of a lot for this car. That was kind of the only thing that surprised me, but it's a very nice car for that money. It stands out in the class in multiple ways. Like I said, the Accord is a good car too. The Altima is just, at this point, you know, when I'm filming this, it's too long in the tooth to really make an investment unless you get a good deal. But even then, you're getting a car that's fundamentally pretty old and very at the end of its life cycle. The Mazda 6 too is the one car that would give me apprehension on this. If I wanted, you know, maybe a better all-arounder, that might skew in the area of the Camry. But if I wanted something that was a good all-arounder and a little bit sporty, I would probably go with the Mazda 6. But you also have to think on that car, it is also a little bit long in its life cycle, and surely there is a new Mazda 6 probably coming soon. If you like this review, like, subscribe, share with your friends, things like that. And if you have any questions, just let me know down in the comments, or if you just have any thoughts, let me know that in the comments as well. So if I was shopping for a car in this class,